On a bright morning in Boston, Jennifer Clark stood by her kitchen window, sipping coffee and bracing for a day she wished would never come. As a single mother, she had weathered storms in silence. But nothing could prepare her for what awaited at her ex-sister-in-law's lavish wedding. With her 8-year-old son Tyler by her side and tension tightening in her chest, Jennifer had no idea that the truth he carried would unravel everything and turn humiliation into unexpected triumph. This story might just be what you need today. Make your tea, make yourself comfortable, and press 1 if you're staying. Life had never been easy for Jennifer. After discovering her husband Michael's affair 3 years earlier, she had quietly packed her bags, taken little Tyler, and moved back in with her parents. There were no screaming matches, no desperate pleas for reconciliation, just a calm, painful acceptance that the man she had trusted with her heart had chosen someone else, a much younger woman who had quickly taken Jennifer's place in both his home and life. It was a betrayal that could have broken her, but Jennifer refused to fall apart. Not for him, not in front of her son. Since then, she had rebuilt their lives piece by piece. She took on every available shift at Maple Diner, often working long hours with little pay, standing on her feet until exhaustion blurred her vision. Yet, she never once complained. Her every decision, every sacrifice was made with Tyler in mind. He was the center of her world, her reason for getting up at 5 every morning to pack lunches and squeeze in a moment of calm before the chaos began. Their small apartment was modest, tucked into a quiet corner of Boston, but it was filled with warmth, laughter, and an unspoken bond between mother and son that even the harshest trials couldn't shake. Tyler, wise beyond his years, saw more than Jennifer ever wanted him to. He noticed how people treated her, especially Michael's family. Beverly, Michael's mother, had never accepted Jennifer. From the beginning, she had seen Jennifer as a waitress unworthy of her son and never missed an opportunity to remind her of that fact. Caroline, Michael's sister, carried the same superiority, flaunting her university degree and social status like armor. Even after the divorce, their disdain hadn't faded, it had sharpened, and yet Jennifer never returned their cruelty. She taught Tyler grace instead of bitterness, always deflecting with a soft, "Adult relationships are complicated," when he asked why they were treated differently. But Tyler was no longer a child who merely observed. He had grown into a boy with courage and clarity, a boy who would soon change everything. As Jennifer knelt in front of him that morning to help tie his little red necktie, her hands trembled. Not just from nerves, but from the emotional weight of what this day meant. They were walking into a room full of people who never saw her worth. But deep down, something told her this would be the last time she'd ever feel like less than she was, and she was right. As Jennifer stood and adjusted the final fold of Tyler's tie, she took a shaky breath, trying to still the unease curling in her stomach. Today was Caroline's wedding, Michael's younger sister, and attending it felt like willingly walking into a lion's den. The invitation had arrived weeks ago, dressed in gold trim and false sweetness. Jennifer had no desire to go. But when Tyler looked up at her with hopeful eyes and quietly said, "I want to see Dad," she couldn't say no. It was never about her, it was about Tyler. She chose a navy blue dress, simple and understated, hoping to blend into the background, but deep down, she knew it wouldn't matter. No matter how modestly she dressed or how quietly she moved, people would notice her, and not kindly. As she placed her hands gently on Tyler's shoulders before they left, she whispered, "No matter what happens today, we are family. Never forget that." Tyler nodded solemnly. He understood more than a boy his age should. They arrived at the Grand Harbor View Hotel, a towering display of wealth and extravagance. The chandeliers sparkled behind towering glass windows, reflecting the polished marble floors. It was beautiful in a cold, untouchable kind of way. Jennifer's heart pounded as they stepped out of the taxi and into the opulence, hand in hand. The moment they entered, she felt it, that subtle shift in energy when someone out of place walks into a room full of people who think they're better. The air smelled of expensive perfume and fresh roses. Well-dressed guests laughed over champagne, casting quick glances in her direction before looking away. Jennifer kept her chin up as they approached the reception table. "Mrs. Clark?" the young woman at the guest list asked, her tone polite but hesitant. After scanning the list, she frowned and whispered something to a fellow staff member. Jennifer felt a knot of dread tighten in her chest. A moment later, the woman returned with a tight smile and gestured, "Right this way." She followed her through the glittering hall to a table near the back, expecting indifference, perhaps isolation. But what she saw stopped her cold. Name cards, 2 of them. Single mother, waitress, single mother's child. Her breath caught. She blinked, hoping she had read it wrong. But the words were right there, printed in elegant script, cruelly mocking her very existence. This wasn't a mistake, it was deliberate. Someone had gone out of their way to reduce her identity to a punchline. Her first instinct was to take Tyler's hand and leave. But then she saw his face, his wide eyes staring at the cards, his small fists clenched in confusion and hurt. Jennifer felt her heart crack. She had endured many things, but this was different. This was an attack on her son's dignity, not just hers. She swallowed the lump in her throat, flipped the cards over to hide the words, and gently guided Tyler into his seat. "It's okay, sweetheart," she said softly. "Just a bad joke." But Tyler didn't respond. His expression was unreadable, his silence heavy. Then Beverly arrived. Draped in a silver gown and glittering pearls, she swept into the hall like royalty. Her eyes found Jennifer immediately. "Oh, Jennifer, you came," she said, her voice syrupy with fake surprise. "And little Tyler, too. How nice." Jennifer forced a polite smile, resisting the urge to respond. Beverly barely glanced at her grandson before moving on to greet more important guests. The ceremony passed in a blur of vows and applause, and then came the reception. The clinking of a spoon against a glass silenced the room. Beverly rose with microphone in hand and a theatrical smile. "Since Jennifer is such an experienced waitress," she announced, "perhaps she wouldn't mind helping serve dinner tonight." Laughter erupted. Jennifer froze. 1,000 eyes stared, waiting for her to react. Her face burned with humiliation. But she didn't know yet. Someone else had already decided enough was enough. Someone much smaller, but far braver than anyone in that glittering room. Jennifer sat frozen, her fingers curled tightly around her napkin as laughter rippled through the grand reception hall. Beverly's cruel words still echoed in her ears, and the sting of humiliation wrapped around her like a vice. Her throat burned, her eyes threatened to fill, but she refused to give them the satisfaction. She glanced sideways at Tyler, hoping he hadn't fully understood the insult. But the expression on his face said otherwise. His small jaw was clenched, his fists tight in his lap. The name cards, the jokes, the cold glances, he had seen it all. And though Jennifer tried to offer him a reassuring smile, something in him had already shifted. Then, without warning, Tyler stood. The screech of his chair against the polished marble floor cut through the murmurs and laughter like a blade. All heads turned. Jennifer's breath caught in her chest. "Tyler?" she whispered, alarmed. But her son didn't flinch. He walked with quiet resolve toward the stage, climbed the steps, and stood behind the microphone, barely tall enough to reach it. The room fell into a stunned hush. "I have a present for the bride," he said clearly, his small voice carrying through the vast room. The laughter vanished. Caroline's dazzling smile faltered. Jennifer could feel her heart pounding, every nerve on edge. But Tyler wasn't done. "Please stop making fun of my mom." The air in the hall turned cold and still. Beverly straightened in her chair, her lips tightening. Jennifer's hands trembled. "My mom works hard every day," Tyler continued, voice unwavering. "She wakes up early to pack my lunch, helps me with homework even when she's tired, and never complains, not even when people laugh at her or treat her like she doesn't matter." The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Jennifer saw stunned faces, wide eyes, and stilled forks. "No one," Tyler added firmly, "has the right to treat her like she's less." Beverly forced a laugh and stepped forward, her tone sweet but patronizing. "Sweet boy, why don't we leave the grown-up talk for later? I'll buy you some ice cream. 2 scoops?" "I don't want ice cream," Tyler said flatly. "I want people to stop acting like my mom doesn't belong." Jennifer felt her eyes well up, pride swelling in her chest as her son stood, small and unshakable, before a sea of adults who had never truly seen either of them. And then came the moment that changed everything. "I wasn't going to say anything today," Tyler said quietly. "But after what you just did, Grandma Beverly, I think everyone should know the truth." The room held its breath. "I heard you," he continued, reaching into his pocket. "I recorded it." Jennifer gasped. In his hand was an old phone, Michael's, gifted to him months ago. He tapped the screen, static. Then Caroline's unmistakable voice, cruel and smug. "I want to humiliate her at the wedding. The plan is perfect. Beverly is on board too." The truth exploded into the room like a firecracker, and suddenly Jennifer wasn't the one being laughed at anymore. Gasps rippled through the hall as Caroline's voice blared through the speakers, every word dripping with malice. The plan is perfect. Beverly is on board, too. A crystal glass shattered somewhere in the room. Faces turned pale. Whispers turned to murmurs. Jennifer sat stunned, unable to move. The recording continued, now with Michael's voice. Be careful. What if people find out you're pregnant with my child? A collective gasp echoed like thunder. Caroline's face drained of color. Her lips parted in disbelief as her secret spilled out in front of the very people she had tried to impress. Michael sat frozen, his hands clenching the tablecloth. James, the groom, Caroline's now expectant fiancé, stood motionless. The betrayal etched itself across his features with brutal clarity. Tyler stepped back from the microphone, calm and composed, and returned to Jennifer's side. She wrapped her arms around him, whispering, "You did nothing wrong." He nodded, but his eyes still shimmered with intensity. Up front, James finally moved. He looked at Caroline with a hollow expression. "Is it true?" he asked softly, but his voice carried. Caroline shook her head desperately, trying to deny it, but Tyler's words had already settled in everyone's minds. "I recorded you," he had said, and the proof had spoken for itself. James slowly removed his wedding band and placed it on the table. Then, without another word, he turned and walked away, his parents and several guests following. Caroline collapsed into her seat, sobbing uncontrollably. Michael buried his face in his hands. And Beverly, once the queen of every social gathering, stood speechless, trembling with rage and disbelief. "You absolute fools!" she hissed, glaring at her children as the room continued to unravel. But it was too late. Her mask of superiority had crumbled. Jennifer, still holding Tyler's hand, rose to her feet. For years she had endured their cruelty in silence, but not anymore. She looked Beverly in the eye and said with a calm strength, "You tried to humiliate me today, but the only ones who should be ashamed are you and your children." Turning to Michael, she added, "You left me because I wasn't good enough. But look at you now. You destroyed everything with your own choices." Neither of them had anything to say. There was no defense left to offer. Jennifer took a deep breath. "We don't belong here," she said softly to Tyler. Hand in hand, they walked out of the grand hall, away from the wreckage, away from the cruelty, towards something better, something free. And this time, Jennifer didn't look back. The evening air was cool as Jennifer and Tyler stepped out of the Grand Hotel. Behind them, chaos reigned, shattered reputations, broken promises, and a family consumed by its own lies. But out here, away from the noise and judgment, it was quiet, peaceful. Jennifer squeezed Tyler's hand gently. "You okay?" she asked, her voice soft. Tyler nodded. "Yeah, are you?" Jennifer let out a long breath, the kind she hadn't taken in years. "I think I am." In the days that followed, the story of the wedding spread like wildfire. People who had once ignored Jennifer now looked at her with respect, even admiration. Strangers visited Maple Diner just to shake her hand, offering kind words. "You raised a brave boy," one woman said. "He spoke like a man." Jennifer would smile, holding back tears. It wasn't about the attention, it was about finally being seen, for who she was and all she had endured. Then came the moment that changed everything. One afternoon, her boss, Mr. Hartman, called her into his office. "You've worked here for over 10 years, he said. "You never complained, never gave up. I want to promote you to deputy manager." Jennifer's breath caught. "Me?" Mr. Hartman smiled. "Yes, you. You've more than earned it." That night she cried, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming relief of being recognized. After so many years of being overlooked, she was finally valued. Meanwhile, Michael's world crumbled. His company quietly let him go. Caroline moved away to escape the whispers, now raising a child alone, the same life she once mocked Jennifer for. Beverly, once proud and untouchable, found herself alone. Her social circle vanished, her reputation beyond repair. Weeks later, Jennifer received a letter in elegant handwriting. "I was wrong about everything. I don't expect forgiveness, but I am sorry." Jennifer read it once, then calmly replied, "I can let go of the past, but I won't forget." Jennifer's life was changing. She enrolled in night classes to study nutrition, something she had long given up. Tyler, now walking taller, came home one day holding a debate certificate. The topic was standing up for what's right, he said proudly. Jennifer beamed, her heart full. One night, Tyler asked, Mom, can you own a restaurant one day? Jennifer smiled, hope shining in her eyes. Yes, and you'll be my first customer. As they curled up on the couch, watching a movie and sharing popcorn, Jennifer knew they had been broken but not defeated. This wasn't the end of their story. It was only the beginning.